Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another How to Draw video. This is the fourth and final installment in a series of videos showing the creation of this illustration, all without any time-lapse footage at all. The first week I did pencils, then I did inks, and last week I did marker coloring. This week we're mainly going to be adding colored pencil and a bit of gouache, but I thought before I get into that I'm going to do one last bit of markering here. I felt that the background looked a little unfinished to me, so I'm going to come in with a blue marker here and just add a little color to the bars of this structure back here. I am actually going to leave you know, the what look like windows back here. I'm going to just sort of leave that as the white of the page, you know, mainly in the interests of keeping this video to a reasonable length. I know last time that I did a no time-lapse series. The fourth one ended up being the longest by far, what I call the final polishing stage of, you know, fine-tuning the shading and so forth. And I predict that probably the same thing will happen with this one, especially since I'm devoting a little time here to finishing the markering job that I should have done last week. But so far so good. These videos have been of a fairly reasonable length, you know, 25 minutes. I don't think this one should go very much beyond 30. So again, this is the last part of the stage. Once I get to the pulling out the color pencils, this is where I feel the illustration finally starts to look good to me, frankly. I mean, at this point it looks okay, but it looks kind of thin and doesn't have a lot of form to it. Everything doesn't, you know, there's not that sense of solidity that I like to have in an illustration, and I find that adding in the colored pencil really makes a big difference there. And for my technique, the order in which you do these things is fairly important. I would not start with colored pencil and then try to add the marker. That just wouldn't work for me. I feel like the marker is the base. It creates this nice solid expanse of color with very little in the way of gaps, you know, or little white spots. And then the colored pencil is for fine-tuning on top of that. So other people may have other techniques. I'm not saying that everybody works this way, but there is certainly a method to the madness here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and grab, I'll start with brown. I'm going to grab a brown colored pencil. This is, what is this? It's not even a Prismacolor. It says Tombow. I don't even know where this one came from. I think you guys are getting the idea that I'm not all about the company and like, oh, you have to have this particular thing. As long as it produces a shade of color that I like, and it's not like really garbagey quality, I'll work with almost any colored pencil I can find. And in a way, I like for people to understand that it's not the products, it is the years of practice that matter the most. True enough, you don't want to be using really terrible art supplies. They can get in the way. They can make you feel like you're fighting with them just to get any kind of a decent result. The very lowest quality art supplies are indeed terrible, and you should avoid them. But I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh, if it's not Winsor Newton, I just can't use it, you know. And that may be just a sign of my not being a fine artist, you know. I think the people who are super serious about art, maybe they do get like that and sort of like, oh no, it's crucial. You got to have just this certain, you know, brand, or you're in trouble. But just my experience, I just have never found. Now I'm taking this same dark brown that I've been using in this area. I'm going to also use it for the cape. And I've chosen not to zoom in any closer. I mean, all of the videos in this series are basically done in one take. I think I've occasionally stopped to refocus the camera, but I'm trying to do it all just very naturally in one take, each one of them. And that's why I can't really sort of keep stopping and zooming in as I work on things. Hopefully we're close enough in that you can get a sense of how I'm building up, adding little pockets of darkness here to the, basically on top of areas of shadow that I had already put in. I may actually go into almost every area of the underside of the cape here and let the colored pencil darken it in at least a little. Now, I was taught by an art teacher years ago to try to sort of bring your whole drawing up, all the different areas of it little by little, to not like bring just one tiny section of it to completion and then move on. That approach is a little bit dangerous because your technique may change gradually over time. So you've got one technique on display in the upper left, and then by the time you get to the lower right, you've got quite a different technique, or a noticeably different one anyway. And if you're sort of moving bit by bit around and kind of semi-finishing it, which is kind of what I'd say I'm doing right here, you're more likely to maintain consistency of technique throughout the illustration. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was taught in college, and it kind of stuck with me, and I believe that it's true. So that's why you see me kind of, I guess color by color, I'm bringing them to a certain level of completion, but then constantly sort of moving back and forth. So like for right now, I'm going to try to start darkening in the area of the pants, and I found this time it is a Prismacolor, a sort of standard Prismacolor, sort of a softer lead. There is this very thin division of the Prismacolor line of colored pencils, and those are much harder. The lead is much harder. It's pretty soft, and so it's easy to get the color to go down on the page, and the trade-off is that they're not quite as precise, and they dull down quite a bit. And those of you who have watched my videos for years, when you hear me talk about the trusty black Prismacolor, which I indeed have right here, this belongs to that softer line of pencils. That you could find what they call the very thin, and they spell it VERITHIN. You could find the very thin version of the black Prismacolor, but it would be not nearly as soft. You really have to push down hard to get it to stay on come off the pencil and onto the page. Most of the pencils I'm going to be using in this video are of the standard Prismacolor, the sort of softer, kind of waxier version. And I hope you've enjoyed this series of videos. I've had fun with it. I found that this idea of not limiting myself to only giving advice about the drawing at hand has kind of freed me up to make these videos a little less awkward, because if I feel that I'm allowed periodically to talk about other things, then I can remain, I can keep a certain energy in my voice. I think when you're people can hear when you're fishing around for some sort of new art-related topic to, or something related to this drawing, and they can kind of hear when I'm running out of pertinent advice. Speaking of which, though, you can maybe notice the coloring technique that I'm using here is sort of circular motions of this colored pencil. To me, that's helping me get a fairly even. My goal is to have the lines not show up too much. I'm really just trying to create a fairly even tone. So for me, sort of ovalish motions of the pencil are allowing me to do that. I wanted to thank once again all the people who asked questions for my most recent Q&A video. There really were a lot of great questions. One question that people ask a lot is, have you ever considered working digitally Mark, have you ever considered working digitally? And I always answer by saying, you know, I've been using Photoshop for years. But I think what they mean is, have you considered using a tablet and a stylus and doing the entire drawing digitally right from the beginning so that there's never any paper involved? Well, folks, believe it or not, the other day I actually did buy a tablet. Wacom, I believe the company is pronounced. I always thought it was Wacom, but I called them up because I needed to get the driver, the sort of, you know, software that would allow me to use this thing. And everyone in the company was saying Wacom. So I thought, I think they know how it's pronounced. It must be Wacom. I can't get used to saying that, but I guess that is the way it's pronounced. And so I did actually buy one of those tablets, and you're not going to see me doing an instructional video with that tablet anytime soon. I feel like I need to practice a lot and get good at it before I could offer any decent advice. I think half the people watching this video who have tablets would be better qualified to do such a video than I, because I am kind of a newbie. Does anyone use that word anymore? At using the stylus. That being said, I am finding it really helpful for creating some nice coloring. I'm beginning work, as I have said, on Mastering Manga 3. Some of the finished illustrations are indeed going to have a bit of computer coloring by way of the tablet. And yeah, this, in a way, it's kind of fun for me after all these years of using colored pencils and stuff like that. It's kind of fun for me to finally start teaching myself these digital coloring techniques that most other people have been using for years. And you know, I'm on a learning curve. It's my very first work looked kind of cruddy to me, but little by little I'm starting to improve. And who knows, maybe I can at least show in the weeks ahead some of the illustrations that were toned, that I did the toning using the tablet. I think some people would be interested to see that. But no, I'm not going to suddenly start doing videos offering advice on how to use a stylus, because I am in no position yet to consider myself worthy of giving advice. I'm still learning. But at some point, if I feel like it. I mean, the problem with like giving computer advice, and that's why I don't do very much of it, is, again, I feel like half the people watching have better advice than I do. I mean, I'm self-taught in all this stuff, and you know, like when I did showing my comics process and people saw how I did the word balloons, they were like, that's crazy, that's not the way to do the word balloons. And I read in the comic section this whole way of using the stroke function, and yes, thanks to my viewers, I was the person who got schooled and learned a much easier way of doing the word balloons. So, if I were to try right now at this stage to do a video on, you know, how to use a stylus to create digital artwork, it just would be ridiculous. I mean, anyone watching the video would say, "That's not how you do it. This is crazy. Why? You're an idiot. Where do you get off making a video?" So to avoid that, I'm going to hold off, not do such a video anytime soon. Well, we're making progress, and what have we done here? 14 minutes. I feel like I want to use the black Prismacolor here on the area of the pants, not quite dark enough for my liking. And once I feel that I've got enough of the colored pencil stuff done, I am indeed going to pull out my beloved white gouache to do a few finishing touches, and that may finally be it for this illustration. I hope you enjoyed the choice of it being a action pose. It is true that I have not had very many of my videos relate to action poses. I don't consider myself super good at them. But as I said, couple of weeks back that I do indeed want to make action poses more of a focus of Mastering Manga 3, and I think what that means is that it will affect the videos, you know, that I'll start doing more videos that involve action poses. Although I think, you know, surely there are many people who are just naturally more gifted at action poses than I am. I do feel that there's a certain stiffness to the anatomy. Try as I may to get things more fluid. And yeah, I feel like maybe we're at the point where I can go ahead and switch to my beloved white gouache. And I tried to have it at the ready here so that I wouldn't even hit the pause button. I could just go immediately into the gouache. Into the gouache, man! Into the gouache with you! So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and lay down this pencil, or toss it down as the case may be, and pull out the scrunched up beloved white gouache and a brush, and this is going to allow me to add the highlights that will hopefully bring this illustration to a successful conclusion. One thing that made this video or subject maybe easier to complete in a timely fashion is that there essentially is not a background. I mean, I put in a little bit of this sort of window structure back here. Last time I did one of these, I mean, the whole thing was like a background. It was a sort of an environment, and some people may have enjoyed that, but I think it did end up with some really long videos as you watched me try to color in this entire surface and add detail to all these different structures and so forth. Let me know what you think. Chances are I will not be doing another no time-lapse series of videos like this anytime soon. I feel like it does demand a lot of patience on the part of the viewer to keep coming back and watching me, you know, very, very gradually getting work done. But every once in a while, I think it is useful. So, you know, who knows, maybe once a year or so, something like that. I'm adding the ever-important highlight across his hair, because we can't have an action hero who doesn't have shiny, glossy, salon-quality hair. Maybe I could say a little bit about my technique. I try to have the brush just barely touching the page. I mean, that's something, I guess, I don't know if I've even talked about that when you're using a brush, years of experience sort of help you to understand where is the tip of the brush in relation to the page. And after you've been at it for a while, you do sort of learn how to very gingerly get the brush down until just very little bits of it are touching the page, and then that allows you to get, you know, really great precision in terms of the amount of white that is going down onto the paper. I can imagine someone in the beginning stages who hadn't practiced for very long, they might accidentally have the brush too close to the page and end up with this big glob, you know. Another thing is consistency, and I probably don't talk about that as much. The consistency of the paint itself, that is to say, the degree to which it is diluted or not diluted with water. Too much water in the white gouache, and it becomes transparent or translucent, and especially as it dries, it's not white anymore. I think the greater problem, though, is too little water, in which case it's really like paste, you know, and it's very hard to get it to move around properly. So, you're looking for this golden moment between the two of them where it's, you know, not too thick, not too thin, just right. And again, it all comes through experience. Now, I'm trying to think in terms of what things would have a shine to them. You know, like sometimes I'm thinking like his cape is probably not a glossy cape, but maybe I want to get just a little bit of a highlight. Let's try this as an experiment. I've added quite a lot of water to this so as to have it not be too white, especially as it dries. We'll see if I succeed in creating a sort of subtle, lighter area after this dries that will not pop the way, say, the ones up in his hair, you know, or on the sword. I'm deliberately diluting it so much that it hopefully, as it dries, will be less intense as a highlight. And what else? I suppose the boots could have a little bit of a shimmer to them. Why not? Crilley, live it up, man. You only live once. Life's too short not to have shiny boots. And this indeed may be bringing us pretty close to the end of this seemingly endless series of videos. Boy, 20 minutes, yeah. That's about how long I wanted each one of these to come in at, so it's nice that it seems to be cooperating with me, the process. And yeah, as you can see, as this dried, it's not popping quite as much as up there because I had diluted it so much with water. So that's another little technique if you want to start using white gouache. Sometimes people will say things like, is it okay if I use liquid paper, you know, or whiteout or some correction fluid? And I'm like, yeah, that stuff dries so fast. And it's very, like I said, it's like paste, you know, it's very hard to work with that. So yeah, I suppose you can try, but don't be surprised if you find liquid paper or correction fluid to be really hard to work with as an art supply. It was never intended to be used that way. I'm doing a little reflected light here, you might notice, on the boot, which is to say, you know, the main source of light is here on the upper surface, but then there's a little reflection that can go a long way towards making something look 3D. You get a nice bold highlight on one side, and then get a little streak of reflected light that's sort of reflecting off the floor or whatever. I always find. Now here's one where I feel like the band on his arm lightened up too much, and I want it to be more opaque, so I'm going back in and making it sort of extra bold. In fact, I'm going to go up on the sword and kind of do the same thing. Maybe a few touches on the hair, and that might bring us to the end of my second ever no time-lapse video series. I am noticing, though, that I smudged my highlight there just a little bit, and normally you should let it dry, but I thought I'd show you that sometimes you do have to go in and tidy things up with the ink, which is what I'm going to do right here. Or you just leave it sometimes. But I do believe that's going to bring us to the end of the illustration. Please let me know what you thought of the video series. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun putting it together for you. And yeah, like I said, next week I'm going to try to be back to my old self. We're going to get old man time-lapse back here. His vacation is over. 4 weeks in the South Pacific. Oh, man, I feel great. He's well rested and ready to help me again with his amazing time-lapsing abilities. But for now, let me go ahead and lay down this brush. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll be back with another one real soon.